Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Norel Doan, and I'm the Director of Marketing for Viking Pure Solutions. And we are very excited to host this panel of senior living leaders today to talk about It Smells Clean in Here and other red flags in senior living maintenance. Now, before I introduce our panelists, just a couple of housekeeping notes. We will be taking questions, and so feel free to pop those in the Q&A section or in the chat throughout our discussion today, and we will set aside some time at the end to address those. Also, we have a couple of audience kind of engagement questions that I'll be popping in the chat, so please feel free to respond to those and engage with us. We love that. And without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to bring our panelists on stage now, and let's get into some introductions. So let's start with Dylan, who's joining us from Inspirit Senior Living.
Hey everyone, my name's Dylan Perry. I'm the Senior Maintenance Director here at Inspirit Senior Living. We have personal care, assisted living, memory care, and IL buildings. I've been in the maintenance industry for around 8 to 10 years. Newly over into the nursing facility side of things, but it's definitely something that I am enjoying. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Dylan. Nicole, how about you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Williams. I work for a management company called Heritage Senior Living. We operate independent, assisted, and memory care communities in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Virginia. And my role is the Regional Director of Operations, but I'm also, after COVID came, I became the Infection Prevention Control Officer for the company. So I provide a lot of training to our teams in the field.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. And James, who's joining us from Texas today.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Lee from San Antonio. We own and operate Bella Groves, a dementia care community here, small family-owned business. And I also run the Think Tank, where some of you may have heard or been to. And Dylan, Walter Ransom wanted to let you know that he's here and accounted for.
I saw that.
Give him credit for being here.
That's right.
Welcome, Walter. Dan, how about you?
Hey, everybody. Dan Lawson here from Viking Pure Solutions. Such an honor and pleasure to be able to share this space today with these three amazing leaders within the senior living space. It's just, I always pinch myself a little bit when given these opportunities to bring these great minds together on our platform. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And we look forward to this presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And also those in the audience, we have our first poll question out. Do you think clean should smell clean? So while you're getting into those responses, let's talk about the myth of lemon fresh cleanliness, because scent is such a cleanliness cue, and it's something that we hear from a lot of our customers in senior living because the Viking Pure Solutions do not have a scent to them, and there's concern there. Well, if it doesn't smell like bleach, if it doesn't smell, lemony fresh, is it actually clean? So we'll start with a question for James. What are some of the risks associated with using scented cleaning products, especially for seniors living with dementia?
Yeah. I think there's the clear and obvious ones that we'll all naturally gravitate to, which have to do with, physical safety, ingestion of cleaning supplies and things like that. And I think that goes without saying. We should all be concerned with that. Even with Viking Pure, they're non-toxic, but we're not just going to leave them sitting around either. So I'm going to skip on to maybe some not as obvious dangers or risks associated with cleaning supplies. I think because there's this fear of cleaning supplies in a dementia care environment, seniors in these environments typically never get to do any of the cleaning themselves. And if you think about people who have done it their whole lives, it feels odd to just suddenly be like, don't worry about it. We're going to do your laundry. We're going to do your cleaning. We're going to do your cooking. We in the dementia care world in particular say that as if it's a good thing. And maybe, sure, if you're on vacation for a few days, that sounds nice. But what it does is it takes away agency and appropriate risk taking, I think, for people living with dementia. And what has been really, really nice for us, in addition to cleanliness and disinfection and all of those benefits, is that our residents are routinely cleaning their own home themselves. And so I think that's a huge risk that people don't think of. That's very obvious. And even though your question was focused on our older adult residents, I also, it struck me as we started using Viking Pure now for several years, how often I breathe in chemicals at home, and how often team members in senior living communities, we are constantly spraying something, we're constantly cleaning something. And I shudder to kind of think about how much harmful stuff have I breathed in and continue to breathe in. And for, there are some caregivers and housekeepers who work in a community for 15, 20, 30 years. Just imagine the cumulative effect of all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those long-term health risks that come out, and tying it back to years and years and years of buildup.
It's unspoken
Terrifying.
collateral damage that I think people are just like, we don't address.
Mm-hmm. Kind of jumping off of that, Dan, why, just in our knowledge, why do so many products, especially the most commonly used ones, why do they rely on fragrance, and what should operators understand about those health risks that they pose?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I mean, the one thing I wanted to make a comment on, James, just kind of mentioning just a few seconds ago, it's, what are the long-term ramifications? It's really not a question anymore. Unfortunately, we know. I speak to this study often. It was published in the Journal of Respiratory, Clinical Care back in 2018. Before we were even cleaning and disinfecting at levels like we are now. In this post-COVID world that we live in, and they looked at a large population of people, over 6,000 people in this study, and they were looking at the long-term effects of chemicals and what those chemicals were having on specifically the lung function, of these people. And inside of those 6,000 people, 2,000 of them were your frontline housekeepers, your culinary team members, nurses, stay-at-home moms. And what they saw over the course of 20 years, which again is a substantial data collection period, was lung degeneration rates that were equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. So just because something smells clean, it certainly doesn't. And to kind of to transition, if you will, into the question that you just posed to me, the scents are added to these products strictly for the experience of the person who is responsible for using them. They have no cleaning power. They the lemon or the fabuloso smell, I'm not sure how you would categorize that. Those odors that are put in there are not intended to clean your floors better, or to clean your glass better, or to remove grease from the surfaces more. Instead, it's to give that person who is applying those solutions to the surfaces a sense of clean, right? They've essentially marked their territory. And when a resident or a visitor, comes into that space and is hit with that fragrance, they too, are kind of delivered this message, if you will, that space, has been clean. But I read about it in this book here. It's called The Power of Habit. And if anybody has read it, awesome. If not, I highly suggest it. It really opened my eyes. Fragrances are added to chemicals much like the minty flavor of toothpaste is added to toothpaste. It's for the experience. The mint does not clean your teeth, but it gives you a sensation of clean. Same thing with the chemicals. The only unfortunate thing is these fragrances that are being added are toxic, and they've been shown to not only cause breathing issues and skin irritation, but they can have drastic effects on people with allergies, certain times of the year, et cetera. So although things may smell clean, or you may have this experience with the product, don't be led to believe that that those products are actually effective. Your floors still wouldn't be sticky if they were clean, even if they smell clean. But they also are contributing to some really challenging health effects that I think we need to be more conscientious of as consumers. So.
Yeah, for sure. With like the VOCs, the carcinogens, the long-term
the phthalates.
reproductive
Yep.
health. Again, terrifying. A question for the group. Have you encountered situations or scenarios where the smells clean kind of mentality backfired?
I think COVID kind of taught us. I think, there was such panic during the pandemic, because that's sort of when I came into and learned, I learned a lot about breaking the infection chain and those high touch surfaces. But I think people got what I call a false sense of security that, hey, if I just spray a Lysol on a door handle or a surface or use that wipe, that surface is disinfected. And I think what we learned and what backfired on us is that people continue to get sick even though we were supposedly cleaning and disinfecting surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, I think people fail to read the bottle, like in terms of dwell time, for example. That's a big one. And then I know also during COVID, there was a major problem with over disinfection.
Yep.
That led to antimicrobial resistance and stuff.
Correct.
James or Dylan or Dan, do you want to chime in any more on that?
I think I'm good. She did good.
Yeah.
You got it.
Awesome. Well, moving on to the next section, outdated standard operating procedures, SOPs, can linger for years. People, get stuck in the rut of that's how we've always done it. And next, let's get into some common cleaning practices that may be doing more harm than good. So back to you, Nicole. From an infection control standpoint, what cleaning protocols are you still seeing, maybe not necessarily in your communities, but in the industry and in infection control in particular, cleaning protocols that need to be retired or re-educated on?
So I think, to me, the biggest one, like it seems super simple, but it really is hard for people to understand that there is a difference between sanitized and disinfected. Does that make sense? And I think that, again, there's a lot of housekeepers out there say, well, it looks clean, it's clean. And I'm telling you, I've done some surveillance on beautifully clean surfaces, but when you dig deep to see if there are pathogens on the surface, that the surface is clean and sanitized, but it is nowhere near disinfected because they didn't leave the product on the surface long enough to kill whatever was there. So I think, to me, it's funny, the CDC, the training got real simple this year. It was hand washing and high touch surfaces and just helping people to understand the difference between sanitization and disinfection. I think that honestly is where I spend 100% of my time now. You know what I'm saying? Is like, I know there's all these hierarchy of how you can break the cycle, but these are two simple ways to really sort of have the greatest infection control impact.
Yeah, it's interesting, Nicole. Like, if people don't understand that there is a difference there, and they don't understand that disinfection is, several hundred times more of a killing effectiveness than sanitization. And even though we're used to seeing that 99.9% reduction on the side of our Lysol cans or whatever, and we think that that's a lot, that doesn't even sniff the level of efficacy that a product needs to show in order to be, categorized as a disinfectant.
Correct.
So excellent point. I think education is so important there. If I could couple that, Nicole, with, as well as Narelle, your question, one of the things I think that we see from an outdated perspective, at least from the Viking Pure, team, when we're going and we're training and we're trying to transition people away from using toxic chemicals to the Viking Pure solutions, is people still love using mop buckets, man. Like old school,
right?
String mop buckets, fill it up with the Pine Sol, it smells awesome. You soak the floor. And then they wonder, like, why is my floor sticky? Man, it smells clean in here, like I said, but man, it's so sticky.
Yeah.
the mop buckets are the number one contributor to cross contamination in a senior living community. They don't use them in hospitals anymore, and there's a reason for it.
Right.
And I think from our perspective, that's, I get out of bed every day getting excited about helping people transition away from doing them. And one of the things that we see is that teams don't want to use them either, right? They're sick of taking and emptying the bucket every other, however many. They should be switching their water out every room. Whether or not they're doing that, who knows? Probably not.
They were not.
But the point is when you instruct them on ways of getting better outcomes with using less chemical, less effort, they're not having to empty that bucket every couple of minutes. They don't look back, but for whatever reason, until we get in there, they're still stuck on needing to use these these old school string and mop buckets. So from my perspective, if you see that in a senior living community, that I don't know, personally, I would raise some alarms from my perspective. And would be, maybe something that you would want to dig in a little bit more in regard to their infection prevention protocols, because we should be moving away from them.
Yep.
Sure. How about you, Dylan? Can you share a funny or surprising moment where your team had to correct an outdated practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the bigger ones that we've had with me traveling in and out of these new communities that I've been going to, and kind of meeting with the housekeepers and things. Seeing the amount of chemicals that are still on their carts, even with Viking Pure in the building. I think the biggest thing that we run into is communities don't really like change, right? We're all scared of change, of what's going on in the world, or change of the little things. We're all stuck in our old ways. So I think that has been like the biggest hurdle, is to really show them that it doesn't have to smell to clean. And I think that's their biggest battle. So like one of the communities that I was in most recently, one of the housekeepers proudly, handed me a bottle of lemon-scented bleach and said, "This is what we're mopping our floors with." And I had a mini heart attack inside, because I'm thinking of the amount of harmful effects that does to our seniors in our buildings, with CPA, with any kind of issues and stuff that they have going on in the buildings, breathing and respiratory issues. It just really kind of was an eye opener. So I think my biggest battle and biggest hurdle is to really kind of getting them on board. And my biggest thing is just trying to really show them, the proof, whether, doing samples of cleaning different surfaces with that, or shampooing carpet, saying, hey, this actually will clean a carpet. You don't have to have that fancy smell that comes from those fragrances and things like that. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is just really overcoming the change.
Yeah. Change is hard for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll weigh in on that too, of educating, and that is one of the things I appreciate about our partnership with you guys, is periodically, and Dan, you might get that text message directly from me, of like, hey, somebody brought in Fabuloso and replaced the Viking Pure bottle with, and yes, it kills you to hear that, but then it's also a sign of like, okay, we have to pay attention, and like any good educational effort, it's not just, hey, here's what we're using, but we have to dispel that misconception on our team first and foremost, and because it's deeply ingrained into all of us. And I remember one time, one of our caregivers, I overheard her saying this. I heard her saying to somebody, yeah, they want us to clean with the salt water. I was like, okay, let's go do the training again on this. But we bring Tim out, or whoever's available, and we've got another one scheduled here pretty soon. But I think that's an important part of this too. Is like any training effort, we have to constantly be in front of it. Otherwise, they're just going to fill in their own story of what it is, because it sounds weird if you don't really know how to explain it. And I don't, the same way that the experts do.
Yeah, absolutely. And go ahead, Dan.
No,
you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when we encounter this, which is a totally natural, aspect to learning of a new technology or a new program, because of the uniqueness of our technology and the unlimited on-site generation for no additional cost, et cetera. Our perspective is like, how do we encourage, management groups, operators like you, to allow your team to take the product home.
Mhm.
You know, I know that that can be a bit of a slippery slope in regard to like, you know, like letting
Take
them
this,
have
but don't take that.
take this home, but don't right. But you know, from our perspective, we want them to build trust in the product, you know, in their home, and to see the outcome that they can get. And listen, it extends our, you know, mission and purpose of removing toxic chemicals from the environment. If we can go beyond the site of service at the senior living community and into some of their housekeepers' homes. And I know, you know, Inspirit does an awesome job. I think they call it Take Home Tuesdays or something like that, where, you know, they'll allow team members to bring bottles in and, you know, just to continue to build that brand awareness, right? To get that success. And then when they come in and they're using the product at work, they see the, you know, the outcomes that they saw at home. It's much more synergistic, I guess, with their experience. So, but Dylan, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my man.
No, you actually took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that's what we really do with like when I go into buildings. You know, we really encourage that Take Home Tuesday program. I will be open and honest when I go into buildings and I see any chemicals that are not Viking Pure. When I leave, those chemicals are no longer in there. But I think the biggest thing is there's always a right way and a wrong way to go about, you know, doing a presentation and showing them how the product works. So I think just really going in and doing a deep dive with your staff, and not just your housekeeping, but your CNAs, your nursing staff, your management teams that are in the buildings, and really, you know, show them the importance of why we are using Viking Pure and the reason behind it.
You know, I always say shifting mindset is more like turning a cruise ship than it is turning a speedboat, right? Like, so
Yes.
it's something that you have to, it kind of has to be a narrative that you have, and it needs to be said kind of in a consistent manner. So kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah, eventually they'll get tired of hearing about it, and you know, they'll just do it so they don't have to hear it anymore. And if that's the case, then I did my job. You know, whatever works, whatever's going to get it across to make sure that, you know, not only are our residents and our community safe, but, you know, our staff, the families at home, our loved ones are also safe as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing that matters the most, for sure.
Absolutely.
Just health and wellness for everybody, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it also makes a big deal if I'm the one, as the owner of the business, coming with my empty Viking Pure bottles to work, filling them, and they can see like I'm taking it home for use in my own house as well.
Mhm.
So you know, we have to show that value too, and like it is part of leadership is you have to model all the things that you want other people to value too. So you know, in the times that I do go and refill, I'm walking around the community just holding them, and it naturally starts a conversation. I'm like, yeah, these, you know, I'm taking these home. So I love the idea of Take Home Tuesdays.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah. I have that in one of my other questions that are answers that I have to talk about too. And then like when we do like trainings or we have any marketing events or things like that held at the communities, I'll always do presentations. I'll spray it on myself. I'll take a cup and I'll pour it right out of it, and I'll swallow a cup of it just to show how safe that it really is.
I was doing that at a conference while 7 months pregnant, and definitely had some eyebrows raised.
Oh my God. We need a disclaimer. We may need a disclaimer now. Just
yeah.
do not drink cleaning chemicals, please.
Do not drink.
Please do not.
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, next question for our audience here. Have you ever witnessed a cleaning method that made you cringe? So please share that with us. We would love to hear it. And
I got a good one. I got to share this. I have to share. So I had a video sent to me, you know, from a current customer of ours. Great group. It's awesome serving them. But there's a lot of competition in the chemical space, right? A lot of reps, you know, that are out there, you know, trying to do what they need to do, visiting your communities, giving demos, et cetera. And I just cracked up to myself because this guy, I guess, was joking around with me a little bit, sent me a video of this other competitive chemical rep giving a demonstration on a toilet bowl cleaner with some sort of like, you know, prop, if you will. The funny thing to me, well, I shouldn't say this was funny. This actually did alarm me. And I laughed about it, but mostly because I was nervous. They were doing the demo on the dining room table that their residents are going to be, you know, eating at. later today, like literally spraying like a toxic toilet bowl cleaner and wiping it and leaving it, on this table. And if you just look like at the IFU, for the product, it's you spray that on a food preparation or a food contact surface, that has to be wiped up. That has to be cleaned off. Those residues, the fragrances and everything else that are in those products are on there. So my first initial thought was, man, I hope they clean that again before lunch today, right? And that's just what we're dealing with out there, So just silly, but something I thought that I could share, that may add a little color to the conversation.
Boy, that just gave me an idea, Dan, of like the idea of a food safe, cleaning supplies. It never occurred to me to do the demonstration the other way and have like when we bring in an employee meal and then just spray Clorox on top of it. Like, would you eat this now? Right? Like, well, this is effectively what we're doing.
Basically.
Very effective.
This
visual,
idea
man.
came from Daniel Lawson of Viking.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Or even Fabuloso. Like,
But the
doesn't it
power of
really-
demonstration is pretty effective. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
I
even.
mean, look, they did a great job with their demo. It cleaned whatever they were trying to clean. I just couldn't help but see the big picture there, and that there was somebody that was going to be feeding themselves, off of that surface. So, just food for thought.
Yeah.
No problem.
Pun. Nicole was about to say something.
Yeah, she's over there.
It's okay. I was just going to say Fabuloso. I'm allergic to fragrance. So, and a lot of our staff and residents and some of our, especially in memory care, they can't tell you, right? They can't tell you that they're allergic, right? And so I think that's the other thing that we have to be careful of is that, there are people that are highly sensitive to fragrance. And so I think in general, that's why we love Viking Pure, because again, it just kind of gets rid of all the, we got plenty of other smells. We have to do with
Right.
Right. It's like that's one less thing to deal with. So
I guess I kind of got a question for the group too. Something that I run into a lot is the salt. So a lot of I've had residents and staff members and things like that say, well, since there's salt in it and it's salt water, it's known for rusting stuff away or rotting things away. Have any of you guys ever had any run-ins with that or any experiences with that?
No, that's a pretty specific question about the way that our machine and technology works. But although it requires salt to manufacture the solutions in the machine, there's actually no salt in our final product. It's a salt-free claim that we have, and that's actually proprietary and patented all the way back from 2015, 2016. So there are competitive systems out there that operate like ours, but the final concentration of solution has a tremendous amount of salt in it. And that's one of the main reasons why, like before you guys even met me, you may have never even heard of this technology before, or maybe even questioned, like, why haven't we seen this? Because traditionally, it having such a high salt concentration, to your point, Dylan, makes it non-compatible for your environment. It's going to be non-toxic and effective at killing germs, but because it has salt in it, it's going to be damaging, right, to the environment. Viking Pure has circumvented, that challenge traditionally seen with the technology through just the way our machine works. And if you and I can ever get in front of a machine together, man, I'll pop one open and show you how it works that way. But yeah, no salt in the final product at all.
That's one of the things that I run into is a lot of residents that are like, I don't want that sprayed on this, or I don't want it sprayed on that, because they're afraid of the damaging after effects of that. And I said, there's not going to be any damages. I promise you. Like, this is 100% safe around you, around food, around anything that we spray it on. But it's just something, like I said, change.
Yep, old minds need new thoughts.
That's a
hey,
great.
Narelle, if I could add one thing to this audience question that you have, and I know Nicole's going to love this one from an IP perspective. But one thing that makes me cringe is when I see somebody cleaning in a bathroom and then coming out and then cleaning in a resident room, and I can't tell if they're using the same rag that they were using in the bathroom now in the main residence room. So
Color-coded cloths, please.
I cringe, right? So like from my perspective, one thing I would love to see incorporated and is a huge part of our onboarding, education, training, et cetera, is the adoption of a color-coded microfiber cleaning system. Really dedicating colors to specific surfaces so that we know, as leaders in these communities, that your teams are cleaning and doing things the right way. But like, look, I mean, a resident or a family member is going to pick up on that too. And they may question that. Wouldn't you think, Nicole?
I agree. And look, I think just in general, there's just as many pathogens on your front desk where all the residents go and make their appointments, and there are no cleaning schedules, no routine schedule to clean those high touch surfaces either. Do you know what I mean? So you're so correct. Like, there's just simple things that you can do that seem so simple, Dan, but it's like just having a color-coded system for your rags that you use on your toilet and the rags you use on your countertop. That seems intuitive, but for many it's counterintuitive. Does that make sense? And so you're right.
Yeah. So we've touched on this a little bit throughout, but Dan, I did want to have you highlight what makes Viking Pure Solutions different in terms of fragrance, and why is it intentional that our solutions have no smell?
Yeah. So look, we're in the business of providing technology that makes cleaning and disinfecting chemicals, not air fresheners. Okay. So if you're relying on your cleaning chemical to also be your air freshener, we're not your company for you. If you want air fresheners, I think that they're a phenomenal, source. They have that, you have that need, and there's some amazing, safe, products out there that can provide, that outcome for you. But let's not rely on the chemicals that we're cleaning with to also be that, because I think you're asking too much of your cleaning chemicals then. And then from that perspective, that's when you're going to start to get all of that other, just challenge. Like I've mentioned a couple of times, sticky floors, streaky glass, windows, mirrors, like all of that happens as a result of these just unnecessary ingredients and these cleaning chemicals accumulating on these surfaces. Now, yes, they are a tremendous aesthetic nuisance, and there's nothing worse than feeling a sticky surface underneath your shoes. Even if you're like the person that cleaned that room, you're like, God, I just cleaned it. How does it feel this way? It's so frustrating. But the secondary issue, and it's just like kind of a higher level, more clinical thing, is when you're leaving these residues on these surfaces, you are providing an opportunity for the germs on those surfaces to adapt and to essentially live with those cleaning chemicals. So the more you clean with those products, the less effective they end up becoming. And then before you know it, you've got maybe a small outbreak here and there, or just somebody who's just consistently sick in their room. It could literally come back to just these unnecessary ingredients and cleaning chemicals. So the Viking Pure Solutions will handle differently. They'll look differently. They'll smell differently. But the most important thing I don't want you to think is just because they don't smell like a chemical you're used to doesn't mean you're not going to get great outcomes from them. So just kind of to set the stage there, if you will.
Thank you. All right, Dylan, have your team members or residents responded to the switch to Viking Pure, especially in terms of smell or lack thereof? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we've kind of touched on this here and there. There's definitely been a struggle with getting communities and team members on board, because it doesn't have that fruity fragrance or that clean, so to speak, smell that they're used to. But again, I think just really honing in on the adequate trainings. Really giving them, demonstrations, really showing them exactly what Viking Pure can do and how safe it truly is for our residents and our communities. It has really been, the most productive thing that we've really been trying. Of course, there's definitely going to be those few individuals that are still stuck in their old ways and may take a little bit more coaching and mentoring and support to get them switched over to it. But I think for the most part, a lot of our communities are really, using it a lot, not only because it's safe, but it's also a cost savings as well, without having to buy, 100 different other chemicals to have in your building, and have that chance that, a resident has that opportunity to grab that. And next thing you know, they've inhaled it or swallowed it or put it on their skin, and they have an outbreak or an allergy, or they may be allergic to it, some stuff like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Question for you, Nicole. How do you balance cleanliness, compliance, and comfort in the protocols you have developed for Heritage Senior Living communities?
I thought about this question, and I think, One of the things Viking Pure solved is a pain point for not just us, but really for anybody that uses Viking Pure is, you know, if you think about how many high touch surfaces there are in a senior living community, you know, we don't have the kind of staff that, you know what I mean, that could really clean them as often as you should, especially if you're in an outbreak. So the fact that you can fog Viking Pure and fog it in a very safe way, that it obviously can do, what is that? It's the old adage, you work smart, not hard, right? It's like it really does save us time. So from a protocol standpoint, that has been a huge sort of bonus, especially for me being the IPC officer, because I always struggled with fogging even the diluted disinfectants because you can't have people around. Like if you actually read you don't want to be near it, and it stays in the air for at least 30 minutes, if not up to an hour, right? And so when you're fogging Viking Pure, we can fog 3 times a day, and it's super easy. It takes care of that sort of compliance, but it gives me comfort as the IPC officer that at least we're being proactive from a infection prevention standpoint versus reactive.
Absolutely. And that's one of the most important things when it comes to infection prevention and control is that proactive approach.
Yep.
Well, before we move on to our last section, I just want to remind our audience that we are taking questions, so feel free to either pop those in the chat or in the Q&A section on the right hand, the menu on your right hand. And yeah, so getting into the last section, residents and their families often equate clean with scented, and they're expecting to smell bleach or lemon, citrus, floral scents, pine. Last, we're going to discuss how we can retrain those expectations. So starting with James, how do you guide families and staff to understand that fragrance doesn't equal safety and may actually signal harm?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think anything that we talk about with families or staff, first of all, we, the leadership, have to internalize it. And when we believe it, we're not preaching to anybody. It's just, you know, it's just a part of our belief system. And I think that resonates with people if you're pitching something versus like it's something you actually believe in. So I think you got to start there. You know, in thinking about this, I don't know that we have any specialized program or orientation, or I mean, we talk about Viking Pure. It's, you know, it's in our it's on our website, it's in our Google reviews, and I have a story or two to share related to this because I think it's just so magical how the profession of senior living can become really integrated around ideas and like beliefs. Like we believe this thing, and Viking Pure is very much a part of our overall philosophy of dementia care. But they just, you know, they see it in the daily practice of our work and in the design of our community. The things that they smell instead are the aromas of food cooking or nothing, which is also good. I think what really highlighted this for me was recently we had somebody come in and tour with us, and this is the first time it's ever happened, but they got referred to us by you guys, by Viking Pure, because consumers are educating themselves about this and it's important to them. And so you know, this particular family member, you know, she has a high sensitivity to fragrances. And so she came in, you know, wearing an N95 mask. And the first thing she did when she walked into our community was she took it off and she sniffed and she nodded and then put the mask back on. And then we visited and toured. And so like for her, it literally was a sniff test of like, I just want to make sure they're actually doing the thing that I hope they're doing. I think, sure, we have to educate, but let's not take for granted that people are educating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are educating themselves, you know, a community is when people are contributing value to one another. So I really love the concept of families talking about it and When we organize family town halls and family meetups and opportunities for families and staff to engage, they naturally educate themselves. And so, it's a part of a much bigger concept here that if as a company we have bullet points and we need to make sure people understand those bullet points, it's always going to feel like there's an agenda behind it. But when you realize that you integrate something like Viking Pure because it's a part of your value system and your belief as the company, and then you create opportunities for those people to engage with each other all the time, they are selling Viking Pure to each other, and other things that we do. So that may feel overly philosophical, but that is also James Lee from Bella Groves.
Yes.
Well, I think, I think we're fighting what we see on TV, James. We're fighting the images because, they're giving false information. They're telling you, where they're like, why would they lie to me that it would kill these harmful bacteria, right? I mean, because it's visual input every single day. You hear it often enough. So when you come to work, you're sort of have that same expectation. I think that's a lot of what we fight against too. So it's a really good thought.
Question for both Nicole and Dylan. What strategies have worked in educating your internal teams or the broader community for your senior living communities about safer practices with regard to cleaning and maintenance?
So we, you and I have done some monthly education that's going out to the broader management teams. You guys have, like Dylan said, great resources. Like if we got an issue, all we got to do is, dial your digits and they send somebody to come. Because you speak, we're learning the language, but you speak it, your team speaks it so much better. And sometimes I think they need to hear from the people. Does that make sense? So the fact that you guys do that. And then we as a company, I'm a big believer. I've been in the senior living for 30 plus years. You have to inspect what you expect. Does that make sense? And so I think we do surveillance and we'll do glow germ, we'll do, to show them, because I think some people have to see it, right? Like they have to see it in action and it creates an aha moment. So those are the three ways that we kind of come at it from several different angles.
For sure. I remember when I was training, when I joined the Viking Pure team a little over 3 years ago, and the first time I saw Dan do an ATP test with the disinfectant, and it was like I was already 100% on board for sure, but like when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah,
Dylan, how about you?
To kind of piggyback off that, just doing adequate onboarding and trainings, presentations with new hires, having when we have our monthly facilities management meetings, things like that, really just doing deep dive into the Viking Pure platform itself, and then really embracing that Take Home Tuesday program that Inspirit has really offered out there to the general public, staff, residents, things like that, to really show that, hey, we're not only using that in our buildings and we believe it in our buildings, but we believe that you can use it at home and it can really make your home safer, which will also prevent illnesses and things coming into the buildings as well.
Absolutely. That's good. All right, last question for our group here. What's one cleaning or maintenance myth that you would love to see die in senior living?
Bleach doesn't kill everything.
Yeah, I was going to say
that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest one. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, anything with bleach, they think as soon as they see bleach on it, that's going to kill it all, and we don't got to worry about it anymore. And that's a lie. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's that if it smells clean, it is clean. I think that's the mindset is it has to smell clean to be clean.
Great.
Yeah, for mine, I think I said it earlier, and it has less to do with cleaning, but about perceptions of people living with dementia that they can't or shouldn't clean for themselves.
I love that.
I think that's something is a complete myth based in, fear about dementia. So that's the one I would change.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things seeing from some of our partners out that way is a man named Edward Kraft. I don't know if you follow him. Works with a group out of Texas. Memory, he's a dementia, thought leader, but he'll often post pictures of his residents, cleaning their personal space, maybe after an activity or something, and that just means the world to us. I can't tell you how much those pictures mean to see that and know that that's happening every day is just unbelievably gratifying. So I'm thankful that you brought that up, James. For me, it's mop buckets. They gotta go. I think I made that clear earlier. But one
day
have
a T-shirt that says "No mop buckets."
We should maybe make some branding out of it. I feel like there's an opportunity there for sure. But no, thank you. Just on behalf of Viking Pure, thank you so much, all of you, for this time today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's just great to hear each of your perspectives and just on behalf of Narelle and the whole family at Viking Pure. I can't tell you how much it means to have the opportunity to serve you and your residents and your team members every day. And thank you for your willingness to come on and put your face out there and be a part of our conversation today.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of that, thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts and prepping with me and all the time that went into that. I really appreciate it. And to our audience members as well, thank you for joining us this Wednesday afternoon.
There was a question. Did you
see?
Yeah, I got him. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Dan's going to follow up and email
good.
and get him some details.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So I will be following up today to all of our audience members, those who joined and those who registered but weren't able to make it. And I'll follow up with the replay from today's event. That will be available on our registration page as well. And feel free to reply to that email with any questions that you have for our panelists, and I'll make sure that they get to the right spot. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day,
everyone. Good seeing everyone.
Bye-bye.